Hello, everyone. Before we start off, would just like to say that I'm Pavi Gupta and my partner in crime here, Kelsey. We will be taking you through this example on how we've been moving towards real-time insights and by really rethinking qualitative research. Before we start, I just want to reflect on the fact that these are our personal views and do not necessarily represent the views of our company. When we think about market research in general, typically there is a lot of focus on what I will call as the known and the told space. So, think about classical research approaches, which would use some face-to-face methodologies, some online surveys, focus groups, panels, and surveys. More often than not, these tend to focus at really what's the tip of the iceberg in terms of really understanding what's going on in the landscape. We have been on a transformational journey trying to go deeper and wider because we would like to really get the full picture and the full understanding. So get an understanding of what is the unknown from a perspective of how are our consumers or patients feeling, as well as what is the untold, what's happening in their subconscious that they probably do not even realize. Over a period of time, it's also interesting in the more recent times that we live in now, that there has been an explosion of a lot of information that is coming from social, digital, and mobile channels. Consumers and professionals are telling us more about how they're living their lives than what they would do in a classical structured manner. This is available more often than not, again, freely to us. The question is, how do we tap into this and how do we harness this information so that we can look for underlying themes and trends and insights and leverage it in an aspect, in a manner that we could move our business in the right direction by gaining those really deeper insights. As we got onto this journey of going deeper and wider and tapping into all these richly available sources of information through social, digital, and mobile trends, the big question that always comes to us is around, can we get this faster, can we get this cheaper, and can we get better quality insights, right? Anyone who's worked in this space of insights knows traditionally we've only managed to address 2 out of 3, right? So we've got enough examples of saying, hey, I can get you an answer faster and better, but it's not going to be cheap. Or I can get this to you better and cheaper, but it's probably going to take a long time. So you get the drift in terms of where I'm going. And this has always been kind of that holy grail for anyone who's been working in the space of insights, data, and analytics. How do we try to address this, these 3 wishes in a manner that you don't need to trade off one delivery to get on with the other one? What we did across our space is really looked at what we're defining as real-time insights. And we said there are 3 core jobs to be done as far as the insights and analytics and team is concerned. We need to use our information to discover, right? So try and understand what is the lay of the land, what's going on, why are things the way they are, and therefore give a perspective around what could be the opportunities or challenges. As we do that, we could get to some solutions, but then we would want to optimize those solutions. And so the next space would be about how do we evaluate, but then we need to evaluate them really quickly, right? And as we are doing that, we realize that just evaluation is not good enough, because it's not a black or white zone, because you could be having some things which could be good and strong in your stimulus, and then there might be others that you might want to optimize. So we realized a better way of creating any programs, whether it is to drive innovation, to drive consumer experience, or to drive deeper communication that resonates, was how do you co-create? So now it's not just about one way traffic in terms of just understanding what's going on, but actually working with our stakeholders, with our consumers and our professionals and our customers to actually involve them in this process to understand and address their concerns to come up with better solutions. So across these three spaces on discovery, evaluation, and co-creation, we actually developed three different approaches. We call our discovery engine as RIG, Real-Time Insights Generator. We call our evaluation approaches or framework as RTP, Real-Time Testing Protocols. And then our co-creation is really called as Real-Time Expert Communities. Today, we're going to spend time to just give you an example and flavor of how we have been co-creating, because what we realized, what happened 15 months ago, is something none of us could have foreseen. When the pandemic hit us, there was shock and disbelief in terms of what it was doing to humanity, right? So I know it has personally affected all of our lives, but from a business perspective, there was a lot that happened, just because of access issues, because of the connection, the ability to not connect, as well as because of the aspect that the pandemic had on the economics of the entire population. As a result of which, the business needs went up dramatically, and of course the business needs were to get that information faster, cheaper, and better. And so because we had set up our basic infrastructure to go and do this, we actually managed to address a lot of our stakeholders' questions and needs, business needs, by leveraging these tools that we had created. Let me now hand over to Kelsey to walk us through an example and bring this to life.
Absolutely. Thank you, Pavi. So experimenting and trying new things is one of the things we really, love to do on our team. And I'm excited to share some examples with you. Some early examples we experimented with is really, again, online interviews. So kind of moving from those in-person interviews. And we were doing this before the pandemic hit and then became really important as the pandemic hit. But doing online interviews, so you can kind of see, obviously I've kind of like grayed some things out, but you can see having a moderator from our team, having, in this case, optometrists. So sometimes professionals can be harder recruits. So being able for them to do this from their office or from their home. And the other benefits of this is that then the team could all be watching wherever they are. So think about a pandemic situation. We can't get people in a room anymore anyway. So having everyone at home able to watch the conversation, able to do all of these interviews in one day with people across the United States, really able to kind of be agile, and then the team to kind of debrief afterwards and keep moving forward. So that's been one example of where we've had good luck. Another place qualitatively we've experimented with is doing kind of hybrid qual and quant in one session. So in this methodology, we've used 45-minute live sessions with consumers or with professionals reviewing our marketing communications. So oftentimes, historically, maybe you're doing qualitative first to optimize, later on you're doing quantitative to kind of evaluate and decide which direction to go. When we've been really pressed for time, we've used this hybrid model where we've done both in one session. The marketing team, the creative agency are all able to watch live as respondents give feedback, both qualitatively and quantitatively, on our marketing directions. Then we immediately, the hour after this 45 minutes, have a full debrief as a team, talk through what we've just heard, make decisions on the creative, and keep moving. So there you've got 2 hours of time from the perspective of your marketers and creative agency, where you've gotten that feedback to optimize, make decisions, and move on. So that's like amazing from an agile perspective to keep the teams moving really quickly. I work specifically with our surgical vision. And so when we think about working with MDs, doing agile work with MDs can be very challenging. They're more difficult, even more difficult than optometrists in terms of, smaller numbers, harder to find, really busy folks. So having this real-time expert community has really been a great solve for us. If we think about medical doctors, there's some great ways that kind of a community really works for them. They can participate on their mobile phone, on their tablet. So this is something they can do while they're in the office, while they're at their practice, where they've got those little times of 5 minutes to talk about this or 15 minutes to talk about this. Breaking it into those chunks really works. And of course, the asynchronous nature also fits into their crazy schedules. Maybe it's 3 a.m. because I happen to be on call in a hospital today, and that's when I've got time. Great. Happy to have you participate whenever. Also, when we think about medical professionals, they really love to hear from their peers. So being in a community has kind of an added reinforcement benefit for them to hear from their peers. Also, when we think about this type of professional with doctors, the industry often gets a lot of feedback from key opinion leaders. Those key opinion leaders work closely with industry leaders. They're speaking at conferences. They're doing a lot of things. But we also want to hear from the average doctor, the other doctors out there, but maybe they don't want to be a key opinion leader. That doesn't mean they don't want to have influence in the future of businesses and the future of technologies. So this is an opportunity, and we've heard really good feedback how much they love being able to kind of share and give their opinion. It doesn't mean they have to be a speaker at a conference to have influence. This is a great way that they can have influence. And we see that my participation rates, I have a full sample size of 100 doctors in the panel. I have a minimum response rate of 50% on every activity. Between 50 and 65% participate on every activity, which is like amazing engagement that we have, which is really great. So a few examples of some of the things that we do within the expert community of doctors. And again, some of these are just very classic, of course, qualitative approaches, but certainly as we look at our new product innovations, doing, qualitative things such as those concept highlighters is really great for us. And a plus, of course, of a community is we can always go back as well. We can learn something, and then we can go back and kind of push a little further if we learned something that we didn't quite expect or it went in a different direction. So that ability to be iterative. Also been able to use it for UX feedback. So we can send folks to a beta site, send them to various kind of out there websites for professionals and get feedback that kind of helps our UX experience work. As we think about the pandemic, this ability to kind of in real time understand what's happening in their practices. So especially early in the pandemic, offices were closing down, procedures weren't happening. We were really trying to get a feel for what is going on in their practices. How are they approaching? How are they thinking about these changes? So it was really invaluable to understand live in real time what's happening, how are things changing, and so that we could then think about the impact to our business from those changes. One of the key things I'd like to touch on is just kind of, if we think about classic customer journey work, we were able to use the community to start with really those qualitative pieces. So I actually ended up doing 2 rounds of really heavy qualitative conversations with surgeons to kind of let them drive and tell us what this journey is like. What are they thinking through? What are they going through? What are those steps? So very led by the doctors in terms of what is this journey for trying new products. And then, of course, yes, we followed up with some quantitative, and you see some of that grayed out here, but the qualitative drove the entire journey. And as many of you know, working as, qualitative professionals, it's that qualitative that really brings it to life and gives the heart to those numbers. And often that's what our stakeholders really remember. So really powerful work as we think about that journey and understanding kind of what's that process from the surgeon's perspective. So great examples of how we've been able to kind of leverage the expert communities to do these things. Of course, we can't just run the race. We need to track performance. So one of the specific things we've done as a team, as we've done these experiments, as we've tried new approaches, as we've done new things, is we've tried to track our performance. Tracking, of course, cost is easy to track how much we pay, but also tracking time from when we're scoping and sending out those RFPs to when we've completed the project and making those decisions. What's our turnaround time? How quickly are we getting our projects done in support of our marketers and other stakeholders? So we've tracked that very diligently across our projects over time to show those savings. And we've been really pleased with some of the results. In many cases, we've been able to achieve 30 to 40% time savings. So 30 to 40% faster. That's, again, our marketers probably wish it was instantaneous, but we're making really great progress to be faster. Also able to find that in the cost savings in terms of moving 30 to 40% cost savings that we've seen across these projects. So really, really great progress on both of those. And I feel for the most part, we're maintaining the quality standards that we really want to maintain. So certainly the journey's not over. We are continuing. This is a journey that never ends. So we'll continue to kind of work on that. But I think we are getting closer to the 3 wishes. I know we have a couple minutes. Pavi, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, absolutely. I think the beauty in this process hasn't just been the fact that we're leveraging the communities. I mean, again, one could argue saying, hey, this is something that's been done for a long time, right? So what's new about it? I think what's new about it is, a couple of factors, right? One is it's the iterativeness of how we've gone about it, right? The other one is that it hasn't just been about the communities, it also has been about what's there in the social, digital, and mobile data space, and bringing these two together, right? So making sure that we are co-creating, but also we are aggregating the impact of what's happening, what they are actually talking about in these communities and blogs and conversations, and bringing that in along with this guided conversation has actually helped us get to, again, as I said, go deeper and go wider at the same time.
Great. So thank you. And I think now we'll be opening it up for questions.